From ancient Greece, Rome, and Egypt to the Middle East and Asia, all ancient civilizations developed the technology to kill. Yet as the battle turned into personal conflict, commanders needed men who could cut down the enemy in a fight to the death.
In early China, when they appointed people to lead their troops, they were very often looking for heroes, men who could lead personally into battle, wielding weapons and cut down the enemy, setting an example to their men.
The same weapons wielded by Kung Fu masters were also deployed by ancient military commanders. Weapons that were optimized for severing the limbs and heads of enemies.
This weapon was known as the Dadao, the big knife. It was the main arms in wars and battles. It was also the favorite of many ancient generals and warriors. It can be used by both cavalries and soldiers on foot.
Between the 10th to the 13th century, the ruling dynasty, the Song, was at war with the Jin dynasty. The Song infantry needed a weapon to take on the enemy ground troops and attacking cavalry, and that meant something with reach and power.
When being swung fast, it could severely wound your enemies. It was recorded that in the Song dynasty, a general chopped off 3 heads in one go: the head of his opponent, the head of his opponent's horse, and the head of the opponent's weapon. This was branded as the 3 heads at one cleave, which is a very famous story.
The key to its success was its sharp and extremely heavy metal head, which could weigh up to 90 pounds.
On a Chinese battlefield, you would probably have the smell of ruptured intestines. You'd be slipping on the blood that was spilled on the ground. It would be a complete mess.
Leading Shaolin martial artist Ian Armstrong is investigating the areas of the body that ancient warriors would have targeted on the battlefield.
This can quite easily sever a head with that sort of action. If I bring it across the abdomen, this will more or less instantly open up the abdominal wall, which will mean that all of the intestines fall out. If I use a downward cut, I'd come here through the collarbone, pull the weapon out this way.
Tom Richardson, curator of the Oriental Gallery at the Royal Armouries in the UK, has been studying the development of one of the earliest death weapons in the history of warfare. A weapon that, according to ancient Chinese legends from the 4th century, was favored by General Lu Bu of the Three Kingdoms period, as it had greater killing potential than any other weapon on the ancient battlefield.
This is a Chinese halberd, ji, which can be wielded in 2 hands, either for thrusting or for cutting with. Long weapons like these are a mainstay of Chinese infantry from a very early period.
The ji was a long and powerful weapon that combined a heavy steel or bronze spear tip with the curved metal blade of the axe. Its development dates back to the Shang dynasty, who ruled China over 3 millennia ago.
That's the key thing with these weapons. They can be used as spears, but they can also be used as cutting weapons wielded in 2 hands. You can imagine from the size of the weapon just how powerfully this can be wielded.
What made the ji a groundbreaking invention was that it was a multi-assault weapon. The spear end allowed the user to stab, and the blade of the axe could be used to slash and hook, making it a triple attack weapon.
The best areas to target with the halberd would have been areas where there were blood vessels that were quite close to the skin, say arteries that would rapidly bleed and cause death of the combatant through loss of blood.